Get pucked. Hello and welcome back to Get Pucked. I'm Matt, he's Vito, he's Dave, and let's just get right into this, fellas. 3 years ago, the New York Rangers issued a letter to their fans announcing that the team was going to go through a rebuilding process. This was a rare novelty in a really otherwise old school mentality type league. So I ask you this off the last two pretty bad losses the team just went through. Would you support a rebuild if the team came out and announced it? Why or why not? Vito, go ahead. Start us off, baby.
I think I'm at the point where I would have to go that route, but the question is, what do you do with Carey Price? And he deserves better. He deserves a chance and an opportunity for that Stanley Cup. And while you have him, I just don't think we should waste whatever there's left of his career. The problem with that is he's got a very big contract. Montreal would definitely have to retain some salary for sure if they were to move him. As long as they have Carey Price, there's always some kind of chance, even in the back nine of his career. You could even say the back nine of his career. But I think we're at the point where we might have to start considering moving some pieces. We tried the retooling. And going, as Marc Bergevin has put it, it worked out to a certain extent.
I'm not talking retooling. I'm saying a full-blown rebuild.
Well, this is what I'm saying, right? We got to the point where he did it. He got some success out of it in the sense that we got to the Stanley Cup Finals, and it was the best run we've had since 1993. And he Marc Bergevin and that whole team gets full credit for what they achieved, even though they didn't win the cup. But now we're at a point where we're looking at a team where on paper, before the season started, we're like, okay, this is a team that's going to score a lot of goals, but their defense is questionable, and we'll see what happens. And when we lost Shea Weber and all these things, we kept going with the mindset that as long as we had Weber and we had Carey Price and we had this kind of window open, but Weber's gone, and Carey Price, he'll come back, but we don't know if it's this month, next month, or after the holidays.
Okay, but hypothetically, cutting through
so
the
hypothetically,
for a second. No, but
yeah,
if Olsen came out tomorrow with a letter, forget trying to figure out the specifics of what you do with Carey Price and can you actually rebuild with Price on the team. Forget that for a second. Simply supporting the team, if they came out and did a letter like New York did, would you have a problem with that, or would you back it?
No, I would back it, because at least at that point there's a path and we know where we're going. And you know what, you're saying rebuild, and I think most fans, that's what they want to hear in a sense. It's either it's a rebuild or you're going to try to win. And right now this is not a team that's winning, nor is it a team that can win. So even if they pile up a few wins, can they win the cup? And the answer is no.
Dave?
It's such a shame, because I really believe they're just a few pieces away. Really, they're major pieces. Don't get me wrong, but they're a good center and a good puck moving defenseman away from we're getting right back in the thick of things and being not only a playoff contender but a playoff mainstay. I firmly believe that, but I don't think that they have the pieces to do it, and I don't think they have the general manager to do it. So yeah, of course, I think fans would embrace. Obviously they have no choice really but to embrace it. But I think that if you put somebody in place who knows what he's doing and who has a clear, concise plan, and it's well communicated, because maybe they do have a plan, but it's not communicated to the fans. So I think, as you said, the letter there, the communication is key. If you say, hey, this is my vision, this is where we're going with it. But it's a real shame, because they're close, man. They've proven it. They're close. It's just they just don't have what it takes, and I don't think they have the pieces to get to where they want to go.
I would say that they would still be close if they still had the pieces that they lost. I'd say they're still close enough, and what you can add to it. But that's gone, right? That's gone. And the pieces that
last year, it's done. We're stuck in this swamp, this filth that is this season, this 3-10, this abomination of a season that we're going through. Which, don't get me wrong, too, right? You look at a season, you look at what they're going through now, and it's only 13 games, and yet still we're talking off the cusp of a Stanley Cup Finals appearance, and the team is not the same team. I get it, but do you really go and blow it all up? And Dave's right; they're close, but do they have what it takes to acquire the pieces without breaking up other parts and having holes elsewhere to get there? If the answer is no, then you got to say the hell with it and let's blow it up. But I want to go and kind of dive a little bit deeper now on what Dave brought up about the GM. So there's been a lot of talk, a lot of social media things about Bergevin, no contract. Do you really trust a guy who has no future with the team presently to care about the future of the team? It's a bit odd, right? Normally this isn't the case, right? So I ask you this. Do you want Bergevin back as the GM of this team? Or are you prepared to see new blood? And I got some names for you. Maybe you got some others. We got Martin Madden Jr. out of Anaheim is very popular. A lot of people talking about him. I hear a lot of things about Matthew Darche. Pierre Maguire even is back in the mix of names I'm seeing out there. Or do you go a little bit more chaotic? Do you go and say bring in Patrick Roy? Or do you hand the reins over to the alleged heir apparent of our current organization and you give it to Timmins and say, you got the keys now, you go with it? What do you guys think about that?
I do not believe in Marc Bergevin's ability to build this team. He's had 9 years now, and I get it. He was young and inexperienced when he started, and he's very good with managing some contracts. He's very good on certain trades and identifying things, but he can't put together a team. I'm a firm believer of it. He's failed. It's just been a failure for 9 years. I know they went to the Stanley Cup final run, but it was just luck more than anything. I believe it was on the back of Carey Price and an incredible goaltending
lifetime run.
Yeah,
lifetime run.
So I don't have faith in Marc Bergevin. And if you're talking about who comes next, I mean, that's the $1 million question. I don't know. Martin Madden was a name that I heard about, a while ago, that people were saying, oh, I don't think it's going to happen. He's the heir apparent to Bob Murray in Anaheim.
Yep.
But he's an interesting name, right? He's one of those French-speaking general managers.
He's a gars de chez nous, and his dad was a part of our organization.
Exactly.
In early 2000s. Brief, but he was here. So there's a bit of that connection too.
There is. So that's an interesting name as well. I mean, Pierre Maguire, I just don't think that's realistic. Talking about like, will fans accept a rebuild? I don't think fans will accept
under the.
And I like Pierre Maguire.
I like him too.
I spoke to him every day for an entire year. We texted back and forth, but I don't see it. And other than that, like Patrick Roy, I don't think is a good option either. I think you need someone experienced now. I think we're done with the trial run of giving this guy the keys and saying, hey, good luck, do your negotiating. Like even Trevor Timmins, fine, he's been in the game forever, but how's his negotiation skills? How is he going to match up? We don't know that. He's an amateur scout.
Yeah.
So I think the most interesting name to me is Martin Madden, but we'll have to see what happens. But definitely, Marc Bergevin, the keys are out of his hands in my mind. I just don't think he's the man for the job.
VR?
I don't think Marc Bergevin is probably the guy for a rebuild, but at the same time, I don't think he's done as bad as Dave made him out to. Like, I mean, this is a guy who got nominated at some point as GM of the year.
Last year. Okay,
right.
but
Hold on.
2 seconds. No, 2 seconds. First off, they wouldn't have made the playoffs had it not been this crazy year. And then they're a bad bounce away from being eliminated from the Leafs by the Leafs, right? In the playoffs, they're a bad bounce in that overtime game 5 overtime from being eliminated. Marc Bergevin would not have been nominated.
He still made it. He still built 2 teams. Well, okay, hold on a sec. He didn't. One of the teams he just wrote on the success of whatever players were there already, but he still made it to 2 semi-conference finals and a Stanley Cup final.
But let's not talk about what he did. I understand.
Okay, fine. But I agree. I think maybe it's time for a change after 9 years. At the same time, it wouldn't completely surprise me if he did come back and if they gave him another 2-3 year extension. But it wouldn't surprise me. But at the same time, it almost like seeing him go would kind of be a bit bittersweet. And this is what I mean by this. Okay, is because I feel like he's at the point where he's gotten a certain experience that now when he does move on, he'll have certain experience and a certain know-how to carry himself as a general manager going forward, right? Versus when he first got with Montreal, he was an assistant GM for a very brief stint, director of player personnel and assistant coach. He had all those titles. So you knew, okay, there was something, and he was coming in to replace a Pierre Gauthier and a Bob Gainey, and so it was kind of a breath of fresh air to see somebody like Bergevin coming into the organization. That being said, there's the names like you've just mentioned.
Do you have one that's not that? Like, yeah.
I do have a name that you didn't mention, and I'm only saying because people are bringing it up, and I have no backing. But Vincent D'Onofus, people have actually brought up, and apparently he was a candidate a few years ago too. They were discussed. Again, I don't think it's gonna be him because again, I agree with Dave. That's it. I agree with Dave. The next guy that comes in has to have some form of experience. He needs to be like. I don't know who it's going to be, but we're limited in that pool because at the same time he's got to be bilingual.
Yeah, well, I'm done. And people are saying Mathieu Dash too. Like Mathieu Dash now is the AGM in Tampa, right? And
Tampa,
ideally, maybe in 5 years he would be a great candidate. But he just started. He's 2 years in, and he kind of was just randomly hired by Julien Brisebois. So I don't think he has the experience yet. Tampa hasn't done a whole massive set of things in the past 2 years that you could. Yet they haven't built anything. So what's he learning?
So realistically, then, I mean, from what I'm hearing from you guys, like, yes, you're talking. You would want a guy with experience to come in. Madden over in Anaheim is a good one, although I don't think he's ever actually run a show yet. Right? He's just the heir apparent to Bob Murray over there, so that's fine. Right. So
also,
realistically, who is there? Let's put the language thing aside. I don't even want to dive into that. I think that would take a whole other podcast to talk about that, about whether you agree or disagree with the person needing to speak French or not. But who could there be, like, as a realistic option to replace Bergevin that's out there and theoretically available today? Like, don't tell me, and hilariously, his name eludes me now, but the guy from Tampa, right? The one running the show?
Julien Brisebois.
Julien Brisebois, exactly. Like, don't tell me Julien Brisebois is the guy to come here, because it's just not going to happen. So, quickly, is there a name out there, really, a true guy with experience who you think can come and do the job? Yes or no?
Man, that's a good question. I don't know. Like, I've heard people, Dale Talon, that name.
Okay.
Again, though, I mean, you say to put aside the language issue. I just don't think they will. So to me, I think that's it's a moot point. I haven't even considered anybody that doesn't.
Fair enough.
In that role.
Fair enough.
They'll tell another one that's interesting that a lot of people are praising behind the scenes is a guy like Marc Bergevin. Former Canadian. He has a little bit of the thing. I know his reputation here. Okay,
Dr. Recchi.
But Marc Bergevin is apparently, being groomed to be a general manager somewhere. So he's a guy maybe I could see down the line. But again, I wouldn't do it. I want an experience, like someone who knows what they're doing in terms of who has actual experience on an NHL team at the general manager level. And I know Martin Madden is assistant general manager, but it seems as though he's a much more involved assistant general manager.
Okay.
He has the most experience. Yeah.
Given that there has been rumors that Marc Bergevin could end up in LA. Now, to what capacity, we have no idea if that is true. What about if it's almost, I'm not going to say it's a trade, but what if it means that Marc Bergevin takes Luc Robitaille's job and Luc Robitaille moves here?
He's not taking Luc
I'm just saying.
I think Luc Robitaille's the guy who's going to be bringing in Marc Bergevin.
Oh, probably.
Yeah. I don't think.
But if you want to get real crazy, like if you want to talk like tinfoil hat kind of crazy, in my estimation, if Bergevin doesn't sign like a 2-year contract to remain as GM, my belief is that he's going to be actually elevated to president of hockey operations here, and Timmins is going to go and replace him as GM.
I would say Marty Lapointe has a better chance of replacing Bergevin as a GM in Montreal.
I think somebody on his staff is going to take it. I think that's going to happen because I think he has an actual really strong relationship with Jeff Molson. I really do believe it. You also can tell, and this is from a human perspective, this guy, to me, I believe it. This isn't like he isn't putting on a show. He actually really cares about his players. And that is a quality that you don't always see in people. People running the show, they're very much dollars and senses and whatever. Yes, he can build attachments perhaps to the wrong people. And I am somewhat defending a guy who did just bring in Cedric Paquette and David Savard, who looks awful, and Matthew Perreault and all these other guys that maybe not so great. But that being said, quickly, and I want to just kind of move on to something else right after, but would you be comfortable if he took over as president of hockey operations? No from Dave.
I mean, look, I'd like to, look, realistically, if that was the real option, I'd be willing to give him a chance just because, I don't think you could work 15 years at a job and not be good eventually. I
Yes,
think that
that's a good point.
eventually he's just going to get into that groove of finding how to build a team, right? He did a really good job from the beginning to where he is now. He's improved tremendously. It's just, do you want another 6 years for him to do that?
That's fair.
I don't think that's what the fan base wants. I don't think it's what this team needs. I think, you talked about caring. He went into the locker room and chewed them out after that game in LA, and they went and laid a dud the next.
Sometimes it's tough love, baby. That shows he cares too.
Okay, but maybe the players now are starting. Okay, they're starting to tune him out a little bit. You know what I mean?
Sure, he does talk a lot.
It's not as if they switch the switch and, oh my God, he's amazing.
True.
Terrible all weekend still. So
I'd be okay with him being president of hockey ops if he lets the general manager that be coming in let the general manager do his job. You could be president. You could be the president of hockey ops. You could be president of hockey ops and really jump in if like things are getting bad or that's a really bad move and kind of veto the general manager's trade or move if it's gonna kill the team, right? Something like that. But he let the GM do what he has to do.
Okay, fair.
And I would be okay with that because he would no longer be the GM. He'd be just taking basically Molson's job on that, and Molson could just go be a CEO, go be the owner.
Yeah, go be an owner of. Yeah, exactly. Perfect. Okay, so with that in mind, and continuing this kind of theme of rebuild, sort of, let's assume for a second, even if Carey comes back, or when he comes back, rather, and the play just doesn't improve, right? They sprinkle a couple wins here and there, but they remain in bottom 5 team in the league all the way up to the trade deadline. Let's just say that that's just what this season's going to be about.
Okay.
What do you reasonably expect as returns for a guy like Ben Sherratt, for example? Like a guy like him who you can see some other teams making a run would be like, yeah, we want to get him.
What did Montreal get for Marco Scandella? A second and a fourth, right?
Yeah, okay.
Something like that for Ben Sherratt is fair. Second and a fourth from a team that needs a left-hand defenseman who's a defensive defenseman who has proven that he can do well in the playoffs. I would say it's at least a second and a fourth for somebody like Ben Sherratt. Now, some people are going to be like, oh, you know what? You're not going to get more than a fifth round. Those people are delusional because defensemen come at a premium at trade deadline.
So no way you get a late first? Impossible?
No. Not for Ben Sherratt.
Okay.
At most, you get a second and a third. And it's a conditional third.
Okay.
Look, there's some crazy general managers out there. Look what Martin Erat got, okay? Like, there's a possibility that they get a first-round pick. I just don't think it's very likely.
Sure.
Excuse me. I would pay nothing more than a second-round pick for Ben Sherratt at best. Maybe a second, and like Vito said, a fourth, maybe a fifth. Toss it in there. But I don't think Ben Sherratt is as hot a commodity. Look at what Jeff Petrie went for, when the Habs acquired him. And he is way better than Ben Sherratt. So
can you move Jeff Petrie?
Jeff Petrie would be an interesting guy. That's a guy who could fetch you a first-round pick, I think, absolutely, and maybe perhaps more.
Should you move a guy like Jeff Petrie?
That's the question. I mean, then watch.
It depends what the plan is. If the plan is to go full rebuild, then yeah, you've got to move somebody like Jeff Petrie.
Well, if they're gonna stay this shit for that long, all the way to the trade deadline, you bet your ass they're doing something like a rebuild. You can call it whatever you want. If they want to stick with the retool, if they want to be like a super retool or whatever they want to call it, it's going to be severe. So I guess my next question, or rather the follow-up to that, would be something more like this. Who, in your estimation, going forward in a rebuild scenario, is your actual core? Who are your untouchables on this team?
All right, so I think obviously Suzuki would be an untouchable.
Definitely.
I think Caulfield would be an untouchable just because his value's crap anyways right now. Anyway,
sure.
I don't think
he's
part of the team. I think Romanov's part of that team. I think Josh Anderson, I would keep him around as part of that team, and I think that Brendan Gallagher and Carey Price are going to stick around also. I just don't see them moving. Brendan Gallagher has an immovable contract. If they move that contract, Bergevin can get the keys. Give back the keys. I don't think they're ever getting rid of that contract. He has so much term left.
He got paid for services rendered. I'm okay with it. I love Brendan Gallagher, and I understand it, so I agree with you.
But I'm just saying that I think he's sticking around, and he's a guy who you'd like to build your team around anyways, character-wise, because he is like a good character guy. We mock the character factor all the time.
The team is starved for leadership. I agree.
That's who I would build my team around. Those guys, I think, and everybody else would be expendable. Norlander, obviously. I mean, now we're talking about like Norlander, Gooley. The prospects I would keep, obviously, in a rebuild, but I'm just talking in terms of the team, that's who I would keep.
Yeah, exactly. Vito. Who stays?
Suzuki for sure.
Yeah.
I would even go as far as saying, I mean, I know you're saying Caulfield's value is shit, but he still has actually quite a bit of value in a sense of that there are teams that would bank on what he can do versus him being on a part of a shit Montreal team right now.
You wouldn't get the value for him that you think.
No, but if he'd be a piece in a trade, yeah.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying a 1-for-1 deal, but if Montreal would have thrown him in along with the rest of the package for the let's say a Jack Eichel, that probably could have happened.
Fine.
Right? But so depending on that kind of a move, I would consider throwing in Caulfield. It would really have to be a type of deal where if I'm throwing in Caulfield,
if he's on the fence, then that's fine. He's allowed to be on the fence in your scenario. Tell me who is not on the fence, who cannot be even phone called about.
Nobody. No,
okay,
Montreal.
You gotta have a core in your team to build around.
Have a core.
So who do you build around?
If a team comes in and overpays for freaking Nick Suzuki, I'm gonna do it.
What's an overpay?
Connor McDavid, baby. That's the only overpay.
Connor McDavid for Nick Suzuki, done. No, if the Toronto Maple Leafs make a deal with you today,
yeah,
all right,
okay, yeah,
somehow, some way, you're including Mitch Marner in this deal coming to you, and it means that you'd have to include Suzuki. Do you do it?
Me? No.
Well, I know you hate the Leafs, but
not even hate the Leafs, and I like Mitch Marner, and I would want Mitch Marner on the team. But if I were to like answer my own question, like you need to have X pieces that you're going to say, this is my core and I'm going to build around. And if somebody starts calling and saying, hey, I want one of your core pieces and I'm going to, and obviously more, right? No one's going to call and say, give me Nick Suzuki for Marner straight up. So I got to give you Suzuki plus to get him. What have I done? I've swapped around some things and I haven't really improved my situation. So no, you need Suzuki as a core. Yeah, we'll put Gallagher and Price aside.
I'm not saying I wouldn't keep Suzuki. I'm not saying I don't think Suzuki's part of the core, but to say that he's untouchable, there's nobody on the team that's untouchable.
Fine.
There's
So
okay, but yes,
if it's the core that you build around.
Then yes, it would be Suzuki and all the prospects, and I would keep Josh Anderson. I like that. I would also consider keeping Toffoli, everybody else's game. And the reason why I'd keep Toffoli is because he's on a digestible contract. He still brings a bit of a leadership presence, and he's developed a bond with Suzuki and Caulfield. And you still need somebody there as a vet who can still steer things a little bit. And keep when things are going bad for Suzuki or for a Caulfield, you could pat them on the shoulder and say, guys, it's okay, everyone goes through, or whatever the case may be. Because if you go all kids, that's just as bad as having all vets. So you need a bit of a balance on that. So I would keep somebody like Toffoli. Hoffman, gone. Let another team pay us probably a late first for him during a trade deadline or something for him, provided he hits the 30-goal mark, right?
No, let's not talk bottom six because that's
Drouin.
Well, okay, honestly, so that's what I want to talk about.
Drouin's got 1 year left after this season, and he's a guy we need to move on from because he is not nice guy. He has certain skills and certain talent, but he is not cut out for the Montreal market.
So I had a follow-up question, and I had names circled based on what you guys would answer, right? So specifically, I wanted to know about your thoughts on Anderson. Obviously, they signed him to the monster-long contract, but let's put that aside and say it was movable. Would he actually be a part of your core? You both seem to agree that he should stick around.
It took so long to get a player like him. Now we're going to just get rid of him after a year.
I'm not saying yay or nay. I happen to like the workhorse. I'm all for it, or the power horse rather. So I'm cool with that. Toffoli, I wanted to know your thoughts on it, whether you thought this guy should be core moving forward after he wrote that nice article in the Players Tribune about, he was destined to be a Hab and everything. You guys both seem to be like, that was very sweet. I love it. Thank you very much. But bye-bye. We don't need you.
You know what? I could tell you right now who the vets should be with this rebuild.
Well, but before you do, just one sec, because it was the Drouin thing that I really had circled big time here. Do you see Drouin as core on this team?
No.
So you say no, you say no. Very interesting. So you should try and move this guy. And what do you reasonably expect Drouin to net you at a trade deadline?
There has been worse. There have been worse players than Drouin that have pulled a late first for worse players, and teams have paid for it. I think that a team with a $5.5 million cap that Drouin has will pay for 1 more year of Drouin and give a late first and maybe something for it.
absolutely, I agree with that. I think you get a first. I think you can even get, you know, a back end prospect on top of it, on top of the first as well for Jonathan Drouin. I think he has some value in the league. I think he has a pedigree. I think a lot he's bashed in this market, and I think that a lot of people,
without question,
you grab a player like him and plug him in a non-pressure market and make him play his role, his style of game. You're gonna see the flashes of Drouin that we saw in Tampa when he was able to deke a few players and go on in his own and do things. He's not cut out for Montreal. He's just not.
I agree, and it's a shame that he's, I was hoping he would come back into this lineup and like overperform and just go give you what everyone expected of Jonathan Drouin, a killer on the power play and killer on that. And maybe it's a symptom of how bad this team is, and he just can't do everything. But I think it is time to move on from Jonathan Drouin, unfortunately, and it sucks because he's a pillar in this community. A lot of people hate him, but he's a pillar in this community. He has a golf tournament. He does a lot of stuff for charities. A lot of people like him. I think it's time to move on from Jonathan Drouin. And the mistake of dealing Mikhail Sergachev for him, because I think that he'll forever be linked.
Well, he'll be linked to that forever without question. Unfortunately, Sergachev's walking around with 2 rings right now, but it's a team sport, so it is what it is, and Tampa's built like a machine, so you can't really compare. But
I wouldn't say Sergachev was the main reason why Tampa won the cup either.
No, but he's a very good defenseman. You wouldn't take Sergachev today on the Habs?
On the Habs today, yeah.
Exactly.
Core, right?
Yeah, he'd be a core.
But that's what
the interesting part about Drouin is you got to actually be fair to the guy. I mean, his play from last year and his play this year, I mean, he's on the uptick, right? Like, if you were going to deal him, now would probably be your best time to do so. Like, he's out there, and when he makes those laser passes and he's racking up the points, right? Like, this would be the ideal time. So I was curious whether you guys would part from him or not, because he's still young enough. He's still showing the signs of significant growth in his game, I believe. Since he came back from stepping away from the game, I think he's reinvigorated in hockey. So I was curious to see that you both said you let him go. I would personally keep him. I would keep him part of my core, but I digress. We're all allowed our own opinions, and that's perfectly fine. So I move forward to my next question. And because we talked about him briefly, our friend Caulfield, he had a game in Laval, right? His first game. His stat lines: 4 shots on goal. He was a -2, no goals. He was getting ripped on pretty good on social media. Again, social media, the hell with them all.
He's got an assist today.
It is the voice of the people. He does have an assist today. I think the game is either just ended or it's live still, ending shortly as we're recording this. And he was getting chirped on, actually, by the opposing team's main Twitter feed. I don't know if you guys saw this. They're like, "Hey, Caulfield, we didn't find you in the first period. Are you even playing today?" That's the main Twitter account of the opposition tonight. I forgot who they're playing.
Utica.
Yeah, so class act there. But so are we concerned? Like, did you have high expectations that he'd come in and torch the AHL in game 1, or is this par for the course and let him work through it and let him? I mean, people were showing pictures of him they took the team picture and he had to look at grimace.
No, he went down because his confidence is low and he wasn't performing as much or performing well in Montreal. He's there to get his confidence back and find his game again. So I didn't expect, if he would have gone to the AHL in the first game and he lit it all up and started scoring goals, then okay, all the better for him. Just fast tracks the process. But no, he's there for a reason. Let him go. It's going to take time. He already got an assist tonight. So far, I don't know what the score is, and I don't want to check at the moment. But they lost
4-2.
Okay, so he has 1 assist tonight, and how many shots? I don't know if you can check that, but it's baby steps.
Right.
Okay.
Let me just see here. He had 2 shots on goal. Another -2 night.
Okay, so, the plus minus whatever.
I'm not. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
no stop.
Sure.
I do expect more from Cole Caulfield. This guy was everybody's top line winger going into this season.
Yes,
Cole Caulfield, untouchable. I wouldn't even trade him for Jack Eichel. I don't even care. Be straight up. That's what everybody was talking about.
He was going to score 40 goals. Ziegler said it. He was going to score 40 goals.
That guy fucking cursed him, by the way. His friend there.
Well, yeah, but Ziegler is the only guy I think in the NHL that managed to get a Montreal Canadian and a former Montreal Canadian suspended within a week.
But people actually believed and bought into this guy. So if that's who he was, how could you not expect the guy's playing in the AHL, man? Like, you need
Okay,
to
can you
score.
say the pressure got to him? Maybe once again the Montreal pressure got to him.
Montreal
if it's the
pressure.
Montreal-
He was in the Stanley Cup Finals, going into the Stanley Cup for the first time. He wasn't even born yet the last time they were in the Cup final. He was torching in the playoffs. I think, what did he have? 12 points or something?
I think Cole Caulfield is a guy who has not really a one-dimensional player, but he's a guy who is, if he's not surrounded by the right talent, is going to be easy to single out by the opposition. And that's what happened is the playoffs. Nobody had tape on this guy. Nobody knew what this guy was about. He's small. He's unassuming. Looks like a kid. No one really took him too seriously. And I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you that that's what happened. And then now players are smartening up, and that's what's happening in the American Hockey League. And this is what I spoke to. I think it was last episode I spoke. I said it's not a good idea to send him back there because now he's going to be the target of everybody in the AHL. Mm-hmm. Everybody is going to zone in and look at the. You think the social media team for the Utica Comets are the only people zoning in and circling Cole Caulfield to chirp at? Every single player is down there on the opposing team is going to chirp this guy and shadow this guy. He's going to have bad nights ahead. Okay, and now it's on him to work it out. I just think it's a huge mistake to shoot him down there. I think he wasn't doing as bad as everyone thought he was in the NHL.
I agree. I thought he was actually doing better. Yeah.
This is going to be worse for him than had he just wrote it out in the NHL. So am I concerned? Yes, I am concerned because he should be putting up points in the AHL regardless of, who he's playing.
Even 2 games, you expected like a goal at least within 2 games? Yeah, okay.
Look, he went to the AHL last year. And he scored 2 goals, and then he scored another 2 goals, or another goal and 2 assists, or something. He performed, man. That's what he does. A guy like Cole Caulfield needs to perform. That's what I want to see.
Agreed. Speaking of performers, let's talk about the bright light, the main, only positive thing in this entire season. I think we've got a clip for this. David, get out of here. David.
With the blue line, Dvorak supporting Petrie when he was under pressure, and then right there Suzuki supports Dvorak, and that's what you need your power play to do, is support those pucks that are 50-50. And then Mike, what can you say about Holtz?
Poked ahead by Suzuki, and here comes Gallagher. Oh, he's hit alone, waits, scores!
So our boy Suzuki, right? He started the season. Albeit there was a lot of talk about him about signing that big new contract, right? The long contract, the big money. Didn't put up a lot of points, and now what happened? He's a point a game player.
Almost a point a game.
He's
got 8 points in his last 5 games. He's got 12 points in his last 13 games this season. He's now even plus minus. And last game, what was impressive is that he played 23 minutes and 19 seconds of time on ice. The only area where he really needs to work on
face-offs.
My God, is the face-off circle. So yeah, he did well against Detroit at a little over 68%, but then it was 40% and 40% for the other 2 games. So he definitely needs to work on that. But at the moment, he is on pace for a 75-point season. Will he continue and will he hit that mark? Who knows? But Suzuki is the only bright spot right now on this team.
Yeah, well said, Vito. I mean, I agree with you 100%. I think Nick Suzuki is finally stepping out. He's being the number 1 center that the Habs need. Will he continue on like this? Can he keep it up? I think so. I think that he's playing at a pace that's not too unrealistic for him. And he just gives the team a little bit of energy and a little bit of kick, And it's just a shame that the rest of the team isn't following suit or he's kind of leading by example in his own way, and it just doesn't seem to be happening for anybody else. And that game against Detroit was great, and I want to see more, and I want to see it more consistently. And we said it, we want to see it against good teams, and obviously LA on Tuesday, not a very good team, but Calgary is one I'm circling on Thursday. That's going to be a big game, and another Detroit game on Saturday. Like, come on.
The last one of the season.
The last one, baby. The last one.
But that Calgary game on Thursday is going to be very interesting because that's what I want to see. I want to see Nick Suzuki do what he does against a good team.
Well, the New York Islanders were a good team. They're a good team, the Stanley Cup finalist team. They're icing, Father Time's Zdeno Chara in there,
No,
and it's but
they're very good. But again, he had a good game, but I wanted to see him steal a game against a good team. You know what I mean? I want to see him really take over the game and dictate, and it's the Nick Suzuki show. That's what I want to see, and I haven't seen that yet.
I will say this: if he manages to hit
3-point game like 2 games ago or something
against Detroit.
Well, okay, fine.
I said against a good team.
Point taken.
Dude, he was 68% in the face-off circle against Detroit. 68. There's nobody.
That team is such a conundrum, right? You got forget the Bertuzzi thing. We're not getting into that, but I mean Monster and Larkin now not around either. But they have two rookies on their team that are leading the scoring races for rookies. That's nuts to me. I find that incredible.
That D guy, man, that's exactly who the Habs. Imagine him,
Moritz Seider
on the Habs. That's exactly.
And they got Lucas Raymond, who's torching it too. Anyways, I don't want to talk about Detroit, but yeah.
All this to say, if Suzuki manages to be a point of game player this season, he'd be the first Hab to do so since Kovalev.
Yeah,
that one season since Kovalev, and he'd be the first center since what? Did Koivu never even hit a point a game?
Vinny Donfus,
since Vincent Donfus.
But I don't think he's gonna hit a game.
I don't think it'll be point a game, but he might be close. He might get 65 or 70 points. Like it's.
I'm managing my expectations. I'm gonna say he'll hit 60, and if he gets to what he's on pace, 75, that's a fantastic season.
Would you say you're cautiously optimistic?
Bringing back the first episode.
Would you? Well, because you're cautiously optimistic views.
Well, if we want, we can make a quick prediction now before we move on to the next topic, and I'll say this. Dave? What do you predict for Suzuki?
I'd like to see him hit 70. I'll go with a nice clean 70. I think it'll make people happy, and I think that I'll go with 70. Give me 70 points.
Give me 69, Bob. 69.
You know what? Give me 71.
Pigeonhole.
No, I think Suzuki's gonna be about 63 points.
About 63.
Yeah,
he went from a point a game to down to 63.
I never said he was going to be a point a game. I said if he were,
he's on point a game.
If he were to hit a point a game, he'd be the first Hab since Kovalev and the first center since Donfus.
Okay, so that's our bright spot. Now let's talk about the shit, the rest of the team.
You got a whole episode for this.
Well, listen, we're gonna try to do the abridged version. The game on against the Islanders. I mean, that was just painful to watch, start to finish. It was a hard thing to watch as a fan. They looked terrible. There really wasn't any bright spots there. They got completely manhandled the whole game through. So I don't even really want to dwell too much on that because I really want to talk about this Vegas game. Vegas game, they don't have Mark Stone. They don't have Max Pacioretty. They don't have Jack Eichel / Alex Tuch, whatever. They didn't have Carlson. So like, whatever. They're icing half of their AHL team.
On paper, they were worse than the Habs.
Like on paper, 100%. That first period, right? Oh my God. If that didn't get your mojo going, if that didn't light a fire in you, nothing can. 20 shots to 1, total domination, 2-0 at the end of the first. Beautiful. Everybody's on Twitter, everybody talking, everybody dancing, doing a little dance. It was wonderful. What the hell happened?
Matt, good teams find a way to win.
That's a good team?
No, hold on a sec.
That's a good team.
Wait, let me finish the good team. Montreal constantly finds a way to lose.
Does that make them an exceptionally bad team then?
Well, I mean, they struggle in the second period. It's the last season I said it. The dreadful second period. I tweeted a bunch of times. Let's see what happens in this dreadful second period. Second period came along. One goal goes in and they just fucking get deflated. This team is not built to win.
What did Ducharme say to them in that intermission, Dave? What did he say? Could you tell me what he could have said to them?
I'm telling you right now, this game proved one thing, is that the Canadiens are soft. They're soft.
Yeah.
And they're soft because you see a puck bounce off Petrie, get into the net, a fluky goal, then another goal, and there's zero pushback. You could just see it. You could see it on the ice. You could see it was just they were going to fold, and it was just going to be, that's it, game over. You might as well, after that first goal, you just knew that pushback wasn't going to be there. And it's sad. They look defeated. And that comes from coaching. Absolutely. It comes from the leadership group. Fine. Carey Price not there. Shea Weber gone. But it comes from the coaching. And I think that this team is soft. It's soft. The second anyone gets anything going, everything goes in the net. They score 3 goals on 7 shots, which I get is deflating, but there's no pushback. The game's 3-2 at this point.
That Vegas team hadn't scored
1 to start the game. How could you not have pushback?
It's not possible. The Vegas team didn't score a power play goal all goddamn season. The entire season, 0 power play goals. They come into Montreal and they roll out of here with not 1, not 2, but 3 of them. What the hell happened to the penalty kill on this team?
Paul Byron's gone, man. Paul Byron's a huge
Paul Byron was the Montreal Canadiens penalty kill?
Byron and Shea Weber.
And Carey Price.
And Carey Price. Yeah, the best penalty killer on the team.
Okay.
He's right, Carey
Price.
Price. That's Carey Price. And on top of that,
Paul Byron as well.
I mean, listen, I was debating this. I was debating this with my brother yesterday during the game. So there's 2 things that he brought up that it stuck with me. When you're watching a Habs game now with Ducharme being the coach, you're looking at his system, and I don't know what the heck the system is. With Julien, we knew what it was. With Terry, we knew what it was. But there was a structure. You saw how they played. Whether it was whatever formation it was, you saw it. With
Agreed.
Ducharme, it's so open. And you see these stretch passes that are always getting taken away. It doesn't work. There's something not fucking right with this system. That's one. Number 2, everybody's saying the Habs need a superstar. The Habs need a superstar. They needed this. They needed that. They need a puck moving defense. Yes, all true. But one thing this team desperately needs, and I didn't think of it until it got brought up to me yesterday. They need sandpaper. They don't have any of that. They don't have any sandpaper on this team.
Romanoff would like to have a word with you, sir.
No, I'm talking about last year. You had the Corey Perrys of the world that brought a certain grit and a certain style of game. You know, you had certain pieces on this team that were character guys. Matthew Perreault, Paquette, these guys. Okay, I get it. You brought some guys that were homeboys over here. You brought them here and you said, okay, it's gonna light a fire in them to play for Montreal, play for Quebec, and maybe to a certain extent it did. But that doesn't replace what the Habs had last year and what they need now. They need some sandpaper, some true character. Now, Armia to a certain extent could have done some of it, but he's a no-show this year so far.
You can't count on UL Armia.
No, he's too inconsistent. You know how he is. He scores 1 goal, you know there's a second one, but by the time he scores those 2 goals, half the season's gone.
Okay, well, let me ask you this then. Is Ducharme getting out-coached?
Yes.
100%.
He's getting out-coached.
Like it's not just the system. He's also being out-coached live during the game?
Go ahead.
Sorry, if you go back to last year, okay, when Tavares got knocked out of the playoffs, it took him a few games to adapt to the fact that Tavares wasn't there. And then the system kind of kicked in, and they were able to take over from the Leafs and win those games in a row. And I forget who I was speaking with this, but he reacts way too slowly to everything. He doesn't. His system. He's getting out coached in every game. And I'm not saying that he can eventually adapt, but he adapts way too slowly for it to have any impact.
So a recipe of 3 and 10 is essentially a mixture between a coach with a weird system that can't be defined, who's being out coached, plus players that are all underperforming. So it's really no mystery why we're here.
Well, if you go back to last season, his record's actually far worse than 3 and 10.
No, I understand that, but I'm saying those 18, 2 things. Yeah, he's 18 and 51 or something. 51. It's really messed up. But what I want to close with is, we started the podcast today about talking rebuild. We were talking blow it up, start from scratch, new blood, new everything, and that is, starting to clamor up a bit more, and that's starting to become a thing that people are talking about. But coaching, the system is a system, and maybe he'll eventually work out the kinks of it. And being out coached will perhaps maybe he'll elevate his game and learn over the course of the season. And the players can't play this bad forever. So I asked the final question. Do you guys think that over the course of this season, it is possible that they all get out of their funk, and this team that we had such high expectations for at the beginning of the season, and on paper had a whole bunch of guys that are previous 30 goal scorers and a defensive core that, yes, wasn't maybe as great, but could be still stalwart enough to defend, and Price coming back, can this team turn it around? Or are we really just rebuild mode?
I think it was Brian Wilde who put it up. For them to even make the playoffs, they'd have to go on a run of like 45 and 23.
Which he also said is not completely unrealistic.
No, it's not unrealistic. But if you look at this team, does this look like a team that can go on 45?
I'm asking you.
No,
can they turn it around? No. Okay.
No,
I think they can turn it around because they're too good of a team to how they are. I've said it last week as well.
You said that how many times? Every episode you'll repeat it.
I'm telling you, they're too good for what their record is. I think they can turn it around. Could they make a playoff push? Yes. Can they make the playoffs? That's another question.
Well, I could tell you this: if they make a playoff push and screw their draft pick even more for the upcoming draft, then this is
no team plays for the draft.
I know no team plays to tank.
The writing's on the wall. That is exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Sorry,
well,
coming back.
Then
that's what's going to happen, and unless they embrace it immediately, and they sell off people at the trade deadline and whatnot, and have people sit out because they're injured or whatnot. They're going to.
But right now,
play themselves out of a high draft.
But at this moment, this season, in a nutshell, is the following.
And this one here, the flipping down the ice and the fortuitous bounce as it hits, it kicks left right into the net. It just tells the story and the frustration of the Montreal Canadiens.
You know what? Mafungo. I don't know why I bought it.
So for those who can't see the clip, if you're listening on and you have no video, essentially that was the clip of the end of the game there, the empty netter against Vegas, and Hoffman basically clotheslining himself against the boards. So yeah, that does say quite a bit now, doesn't it? So listen, guys, let's close it up here. I think that was really well done. I think the overall consensus is if it's done correctly, we all kind of agree we would embrace the rebuild. However, the team does still have a glimmer of hope to potentially get their shit together. But it's really going off the tracks very, very quickly.
Dave thinks there's a glimmer of hope.
All right, listen.
I'm usually the one that's, as we said, cautiously optimistic. No, it'd be too much. They're too soft. They're too soft. They're too soft to show the kind of character that requires to go on a run like that.
Very good. Well, listen. We'll pick it up next time. Again, we want to thank everybody for listening. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe. Please like. Please share with anybody that you think would enjoy this kind of content. I'm Matt. He was Vito. He was Dave. And this was Get Pucked. Thanks.